not a federation-sponsored event.
Okay.
This was,
It's a full house tonight.
Oh my God,
this was
like
in,
a private.
I'm gonna say,
No, we don't need to.
It's quality, not quantity.
There you go, Steve.
I don't know, we feel like we're really, we're
Okay.
taking advantage of precious resources of this congregation.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Very precious.
Yeah.
Rabbi Klein is very precious.
Well, I
Look at him.
You're
Look
not
at
chopped
him.
liver.
Oh, well,
Hi, Nancy.
Hello. It could happen. Listen,
it could happen.
it's only 7. We'll give it a few minutes.
so anyway, to conclude,
Words and sound.
this woman is going to be back in Cleveland with her, I guess.
Like her counterpart?
I
Okay.
believe in September.
Okay.
As always.
And he's looking for opportunities to create awareness.
Okay.
And I said I would
Oh,
just ask one or a couple of you, I thought of you and Yael, to see if you think that's something that
Hey, guys.
evening.
might be an audience for here, and whether,
Pretty bad out there, isn't it?
I don't know where the
Okay.
powers that be,
And it's Cleveland.
as well as the board are with regard, you know, this is.
Now Erie's even,
I'm sure there's a way to frame it that it would be fine. But I'm happy to take
and
it
when
to
I
the
went to,
clergy
I
team
drove to college
and just
that
see
way.
what
And
kind of
between Buffalo
feedback
and
we get on the idea.
Syracuse,
Okay, so.
Dartmouth.
Will you just send me an email?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
That would be great.
Hanover,
And then
New
I'll-
Hampshire. Have you been there?
I mean, you've seen me write it down, but God only
Yeah,
knows
why?
what that's going to turn into.
I was living in Boston.
Perfect.
A dear friend from Charlestown up to Hanover.
See what we can do.
He
Sounds like fun.
for
Hi, guys. How are you?
was
Hey, how are you?
company that
Glad to see you all.
made stoves for homes.
Thanks for being
We
here.
lived in Hanover. It's a
Grandson's down the street in a
have to
band.
live way up country. It's good to
What does he play?
near a major university in basketball.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And they had a very large home.
Oh, really?
Took advantage.
Right
he's
in
coming up
Hanover
soon, yeah.
itself. Right.
I didn't know he was a percussionist.
Well, you went to Cornell. I mean, these are two gorgeous campuses.
My one of my best friends from college she's a music ed major. She's a music teacher, and her husband is he was a percussion major, and I went to some of the strangest percussion
Philosophy.
performances for 4 years of college.
Isn't that shocking?
We actually took them
And then in graduate school too.
museum, art museum.
What do you think?
Well, at least you got
Oh.
a practical education of
Exactly.
money off of that immediately upon graduation.
My father used to say,
strangest
you know, I'll
things.
get you a robe and a
strange.
toga. What else are you
The
gonna?
things they came up with.
Yeah,
I'm spending
Yeah,
for a veteran's education.
just too
Exactly.
avant-garde. Well, maybe.
but you know,
This was a while ago
man,
in Columbus. but
tuition.
There was one, he used
They
to
kill
Furby.
philosophers.
Do you remember
Yeah, that's
Furbies?
what,
Those-
you know,
the toys,
Aristotle
the, like,
fled Athens so that
they were,
Athens
that
wouldn't
was
sin
and then he had
twice
one,
against
there was
philosophy.
a bell in a
Spinoza.
soundproofed box.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh, philosophers are
What are you
dangerous,
guys
as,
doing in the
as we
percussion
know.
program?
Corrupt the mind.
They were so strange.
You know, I
Pushing
think it's
the
a
limit, they're
very
being creative.
interesting
And
question
you know what?
as to whether
It gave us a lot
Athens
to talk about.
was
It was art.
justified in what they
It was
did.
very-
Now, they needn't kill him, but is the philosopher dangerous to society? I think the answer is potentially yes.
It
You
is
know,
amazing
because
with lowered
Plato's
inhibitions
goal
what
was to
some people are
answer
able
the
to
last
do in their
why.
performances. It's really amazing.
Why? Because, why that? And really, it's turtles all the way down.
Interesting.
So you can, if by asking
Wow,
those
wow, wow.
questions, undermine the myths, the
It
stories
sounds
of the
it.
community.
Wow.
About that story about Plato getting banned in Texas.
Oh, I saw that.
Art.
No, we can't teach classic.
Look, we got more people coming down the hall. This is great.
It's too low.
It's a ruthless question.
Good.
That's the problem. I mean,
You
the
never
philosophers are not
know.
wrong,
See,
but the
watch,
city
we'll have to
depends
pull
on
more chairs around.
unchallenged
Can you imagine?
assumptions. Doesn't it? And stories.
Can't have that.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, I mean, it's not even really that helpful, but it's what I had access to.
Well, good. We'll pretend we
We'll
know
pretend it's
exactly
useful.
what we're doing.
Exactly, like always.
As always, right, we're
That's
good
our
at that.
normal way. Oh my gosh.
Well, I did a funeral outside today. I mean,
Was it
it
during
was
the
at
sleep?
Mount Olive. It was inside for the thing, but then the burial. It's miserable
It was
out
rough.
there.
I know. I was thinking. I knew you had one today. It's
Yeah.
yucky out. How's the family doing? Are they okay?
You know, she lived a very, very good life. She had 3 husbands.
Okay.
Each of them died,
Okay.
but each of them was a wonderful person, and she had 3 good marriages.
How lucky.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very special.
Yeah, very.
Wow, wow, wow.
I knew her, and she was really a great person. Yeah.
They were lucky to have you.
Oh, I
out
don't
in the
know about
sleep.
that.
Oh, I think so.
That's what
It's
my
special.
mother would have said.
Yes. Well,
There's nobody like you.
would she say it with a smile?
Oh,
Or with
that's
steam coming out of her ears.
serious. And you know, I have 2 younger brothers, and I was sort of the favored guy.
Were you?
Yeah. Now you 2 are the oldest.
I'm the oldest, of course, of
2.
3. Of 3.
Yeah. Isn't it
I
great
won't
to be-
comment on favoritism, but I am the oldest of 3.
Okay.
I have a strong bias towards oldest. Most of my friends are oldest, so
Is that
at least
true?
3. I have 2 or 3.
thought of
Yeah.
that. You know, I do some traveling with my youngest brother, and we decided after our second parent died that we were going to do this because otherwise we wouldn't stay together.
Yeah.
And we had some really rough conversations because he always felt,
He resented you. Yeah, it's really complicated.
Oh, it is.
The family dynamic stuff.
oh boy, is
Fascinating.
it?
Of how many? 3 boys. You're the baby of 3
You're
boys.
the youngest.
What's the age range from you to the oldest?
There's 5 years from the oldest to the youngest.
Okay. So it's a tight range for 3, yeah.
And what are your
My kids are also 5 years. We had a daughter and
Right.
Your
Right.
older brothers do? What do they do?
my oldest brother, he's worked in the Jewish not-for-profit world. He's continuing to work for not-for-profit in Detroit, doing development, fundraising. My brother, he lives in Roanoke, does commercial flooring. So installation in offices and hospitals.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Nice.
He's the entrepreneur.
Are you close with your brothers? An unequivocal.
I mean, we could spend the whole night on family dynamics. It's so interesting. It is like when you have the same ingredients and the same environment. How can you? Yeah, interesting. Oh, let's start.
Well, he was working for Henry Ford Hospital. Now he's working for like a third party that does work in that general sort of hospital area. Was the chief operating officer for the New Jersey Federation, and he worked for the Jewish Community Relations Council in Detroit.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I worked at Federation.
In Detroit.
David Gadhart. In Detroit.
David, what?
David Gadhart. Nancy Gadhart. That's my brother and sister.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this. I love this. Wow.
He was some consul for, yeah.
I love it. All right, I'm gonna get us started. That was very fun. I love that. I love a successful Jewish geography moment. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. We are always grateful to see you, but we are perhaps extra grateful, given the weather, to see you. And also, it's just good to be together. I think, we can just name at the outset that there's a lot going on right now. And it's a painful time to be good at pattern recognition and a student of history. And so I think we'll just hold some tender space for all the things that we're carrying with us into the room and just acknowledge how good it is to have a distraction for a few minutes from the outside. So thank you all for risking the roads to be here. Although, of course, now it looks like it's stopped, which is good news for later, hopefully.
Has it?
It looks like it's slowing down at least.
Okay.
So we're here for our next session. As we get started, I want to just invite everyone to say your name aloud so we can all know who we're in the circle with, and we'll start over here.
Malcolm Pennock.
Vivian Henna.
Lindsay Wexler,
Greg Wrestling.
Clark Rose,
Sharon Rose.
Steve Litt, Stephen Schlein, Linda Schlein,
Erica Rivera.
Nancy Levy, Debbie Kastner,
Brian Kastner.
Louise Dietrich.
Steve Harf.
Roger Klein.
Ellie Mulbaum. All right, people. We're here to talk about Jewish identity. So fun to be together. Here is what I have for you. I've got a handout. Actually, before I do the handout, a quick thing. Did folks have a chance to read the chapter?
Yes.
Mostly? Okay. So how did it feel, just maybe a couple folks can share out, to go from last month's chapter on the God of black and white to this month's chapter on the God of social justice? Just a word or two about how it felt to read this chapter as a contrast to last month's.
Well, it seemed to me that last month someone else was under the microscope, and this month we're under the microscope.
Okay, so you found yourself reflected there. Okay, anyone else? That's a nice way of putting it.
Well, I felt like I was, for my generation, like living through that whole thing, starting out in a consumer synagogue, and then moving to a reform, and then the whole guitar thing, and the kids with camp and all that, and so,
Yeah.
and then the whole meditation thing, and the
All right.
jubu and all that.
You felt like you kind of experienced each part. Okay, good. So you felt well reflected there. Okay. Anyone else want a quick reflection before we dive in? Clark?
one course meal to a smorgasbord.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
Block that metaphor.
Huh.
I bet you do.
That's interesting. All right.
Yeah, that's good.
What'd you think?
Both last time and this time, as I'm reading, I'm arguing with the author.
Sure.
It's like,
That's part of the fun.
this broad brush sometimes ignores a lot of things, and he overemphasizes some things to the detriment of others.
So, okay, I have a similar reaction sometimes, and the way I've tried to get through it is to remember that his book is not a book about what it means to be a Reformed Jew, and the same way that we're not monolithic in his reflection on what our progressive Judaism may look like is not comprehensive, nor was the chapter on Orthodoxy, nor will be the chapters to come. But yes, that resonates with my experience. Anyone else? Okay, I want to tell a brief anecdote to get us started. So I moved to Cleveland in 2020, which you will recall was the fun year of the pandemic's kind of beginning. And when I arrived, Rabbi Nosenchuk hooked me up with one of the editors at the Cleveland Jewish News, because they do this column. I'm not sure if everyone's heard of the Cleveland Jewish News here, but they have a column in the CJN towards the back where you can write like 300-word Devar Torah about the weekly Torah portion. And so I got signed up that summer to do a few in a row. And I wasn't often in the building because most of what we were doing was remote in 2020. I was often on Zoom, rarely in the temple. And one day I went in and I checked the mail, and I had a hard copy letter from a Cleveland address that had been mailed to me at the temple. And I opened it and I thought, oh my gosh, my first piece of mail at the temple. And it was a letter from a very angry Clevelander who had read my, what I thought to be rather innocuous Devar Torah on one of the probably Torah portions from the book of Numbers, given the timing. And he used a phrase as a slur in the letter to me, which was tikkun olamnik. He said that the tikkun olamniks are some accusation about like ruining Judaism or degrading Judaism, something. It was unkind, I don't have it on me. But it was something, but I remember the use of tikkun olamnik as a slur in this letter. And I took my push pin and I took the letter and I put it right up on my bulletin board so I would see it every day, because it reminded me that I feel comfortable being called a tikkun olamnik, because I think part of my work as a Jew in the world is to make the world a better place. So that's not going to get me down. It was the wrong insult, you know? And it got me thinking, though, as we were preparing for tonight and thinking about this chapter, if we think about tikkun olam as the like guiding motto of non-Orthodox Judaism, which, by the way, may not be the right phrase, may not be the right motto, but if we, for the sake of this exercise, does that degrade the rest of Judaism? Like, does picking tikkun olam, or in a broader sense, does picking justice work as an enactment of Jewish values take away from the other pieces of the spectrum of Jewish life?
You mean for those who choose to focus on tikkun olam?
Yes, for the maybe self-proclaimed tikkun olamniks, we'll say. So,
It's certainly not the full story.
okay.
But I don't think of it as pejorative, but it's not everything. So it's like, we don't need religion, just everybody be kind. I mean, that's sort of taken to the most extreme. There's something Jewish more so than just tikkun olam. That there is something more to it than that.
Right, like in theory, many groups of people around the world hope to make the world a better place. We don't own that as a concept, right? Okay. Other reactions to this nonsense question that I've given you? Okay, necessary but not sufficient is a nice way of putting it. Yeah. Other reactions to this?
When I hear people criticize tikkun olam, which seems like it's become a popular thing to do in recent days, years, I think it paints it with a broad brush, and the guitar always comes up, camp always comes up, and that's it. And the real work, as we all know, is really, really hard. And it's not just like a thing you check off a box and you're done with it. It's like any kind of justice work is so hard to sustain. And I don't need too many flakes. Like it brushes it off like it's this new agey thing that people just do to make themselves feel good. And maybe as we have criticism of wokeness and stuff like that, but it really, it hurts me when I see that, because I think the people that, like, were my teachers growing up, worked really hard to get to that place, and they were, like, pioneering new ways of thinking and believing in Judaism. It's so disrespectful.
Thank you. Other reactions? Oh.
Makes me think about this Christian author who just wrote this book about toxic empathy. Like, you're not supposed to be kind, like, that's bad in some ways. I don't know, it sounds like the person who wrote that note to you was perhaps coming from a similar place, because being a tikkun olamnik, I've never heard of this expression before, so I'm learning something. Sounds like maybe politically conservative, and like you're not supposed to be involved in this because that's not your job.
Well, I think part of it was that, like, I think to me, the slur comes in where it's like all you do, like your entire religious existence is tikkun olam. Like, you don't do the real stuff, the theological stuff, or the prayer, like the prayer stuff doesn't count because of how we do it. The thing we do is tikkun olam only. That's how I understood it. But of course, we weren't in dialogue together because it was an angry mailed letter. Yeah. What were we gonna say?
Again, the first I've ever heard that expression, which I think just describes our generational or orientation to the spectrum. I think of Judaism, because maybe I worked for a federation, is extreme, not extreme and middle and this, so I mean that was an experience in a community where I was really deep into that community, and I grew up in this community, so my experience is so varied that again, tikkun olamnik Nick? I mean, it's like this, what? But that is, I would have taken that as, well, I gasped when you said that. Because it's so extreme, I think, a turn on, repair the world, and the Jewish expression of repairing the world that were shattered. It was all it's a metaphor, and I guess not. Things change. Our language is changing on everything.
Yeah.
It's flipping everything.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
I went on too long.
That's okay. It's all right. Clark, go ahead.
Given that there are three main streams of Judaism, and our particular reform comes out of the prophetic tradition, this individual pretty much needed a much wider angle of lens to be able to, see properly. His perspective was myopic. So.
Maybe so, but even the use of the Hebrew phrase recognizes, at least me, I won't say us, recognized me as an insider. Like, it gave me enough credence. Clearly, I'm Jewish enough to know Tikkun Olam. Also, we don't have to give this guy much more airtime. But like, he doesn't deserve it. But I think, as I hadn't thought of, the reason I brought this story, I was telling it to Rabbi Klein earlier this week, I hadn't thought about it since it happened. And then reading this chapter and going through, like, is it a bad thing if the legacy of our movement is that we are Tikkun Olamniks? What do you think? No, okay. I like that you said it like a sentence. No.
Well, having, been raised in this community, temple, we were taught it's important to give back, it's important to take care of the world. We were taught ethics, that, along with a lot of other stuff, was being Jewish.
Mhm.
And that came under Tikkun Olam. We weren't, I was, but many people weren't exposed to the black and white
Right.
community.
Right.
Knowing that, that would, it never, years ago, would have entered my mind that it was not so Jewish
Mm-hmm.
to want to repair the world. So I guess I'm part of the progressive community.
Though, I think that he raises another question about this, as to whether or not, in order to sustain an interest in Tikkun Olam, other things need to be affirmed.
Right.
If we're just talking about customs or habits without nesting it in some larger framework, that it may not be possible to sustain it. And I think he raises the question. His view, as I understand it, is that unless there's something of a robust belief in God and all that God implies, something eternal, something mandated, that unless it's nested in some sort of a cultural matrix, that it's just not going to sustain itself. So I think that one of the challenges that he doesn't pose this, but it seems to me that the whole issue of Tikkun Olam poses it itself. And that is, what else might be necessary in order to deepen our commitment to Tikkun Olam and sustain it over time? My assumption is it's not self-sustaining. It needs to be buttressed by other things. And if I'm right...
Otherwise, it's just a hobby.
Or otherwise, it's just a hobby, right?
Right.
And what might they be, the other things that are required?
And that would be a generous interpretation of his remarks.
Well, let's see.
I like your position.
It's a good framing. Let's see. I pulled some excerpts. One of the things I wanted to do also is pull a couple of texts. There's going to be a few. We'll have a chance to study a few different texts throughout the night. But I pulled a couple that are used often when we think about justice work, and since we're the movement of social justice, I thought we'd do a little textual framing for it. So first is a very well-known quote from Amos: "Let justice well up like water, righteousness like an unfailing stream." Maybe you've heard this before. It's been used in various reform prayer books and liturgies over the years. So this is part of our pursuit when we think about, our progressive streams and where we draw our texts from. The prophets are often one, and we'll talk more about that later. But this line in particular becomes like a calling card of justice work, and then the next as well. Justice, justice shall you pursue, that you may thrive and occupy the land that your God Adonai is giving you, from Deuteronomy. So I'm bringing these as framings. We're not going to talk about them in particular, but I want you to keep them in your mind as we go through. And then I have excerpts here in case people didn't bring copies of their book. So I want to highlight a few different passages in the chapter to give us a little bit of an overview, and then we'll dive in a little bit more deeply and see how we connect what Rabbi Klein just posited to what Feldman's got here. So the first comes from page 47. And he talks about kind of this difference between the traditionalists and the progressives. He says, the result is a Jewish belief I will call progressive, the belief in a divine moral order whose eternal truths of justice and love unfold in progress through history, rather than being fixed in unchanging authority. So progressive, like in English, would mean like it's moving. There is progress. There's adaptability and flexibility enough to make progress from era to era, from season to season. Okay, the next, which we could read in various tones, I'm going to try and take a neutral tone. So if you are looking for a strand of Jewish thought that celebrates women rabbis, embraces gay and trans people, and emphasizes civil rights and social values like equality and free choice, progressive Judaism is it. When a new moral truth becomes prominent in liberal Western belief, progressive Jews see it as part of the eternal truth that God, however defined, always intended, and that has now emerged through the human historical process of experience and reasoning. Traditionalist Jews think of what they call Yiddishkeit as a comprehensive way of life in the path of God. Progressive Jews mostly think of their Judaism as a religion, one that shapes their broader moral beliefs and worldview and is in turn shaped by them. Where traditionalists see the authority of God's law and the authority of the rabbis who interpret it, progressives see the moral inspiration of the Bible's teachings and the freedom of humans to make sense of Torah in light of their community to human equality and dignity. When I read that the first time, I found myself pretty moved by it. And I think actually there's a much more condescending tone we could have taken in reading it, which would make me feel moved in a different way. But I am looking for a strand of Jewish thought that celebrates women rabbis and embraces gay and trans people and emphasizes civil rights and social values like equality and free choice. And how lucky do I feel every day that not only do I have that I get to help lead that. That is exactly what I'm looking for. That is the match for me. That's not the match for every Jew on the planet. But that is the match for me, and I think for the ones, many of us around this table at least. And so to see it characterized like that, I was like, jackpot. That is what I'm looking for. And then the next piece is what kind of got me a little wiggly. So the idea that morality over generations is something that changes. Like this idea that there's a new moral truth that could arise, on the one hand actually could sound disparaging, because when we think about the eternity of Judaism and the ancient roots of Judaism, and those lights are so bright, and the way that we've kind of lasted from ancient times to today, to say that morality would be something that's changeable like this makes it sound like it's not an anchor the way we would want it to be. You know, like if it's so flexible, then what even is it? There must be something, yeah.
Couldn't you understand it in a different way? Let me give an analogy.
Yeah.
When did the laws of gravity become true? And the answer is they were always true.
Right.
When did we come to recognize it? So I don't think that, I think
No, I like that.
I think you can say the moral truths have always been true, but what catalyzes recognition may be culture specific. And so we come to recognize it in time, even though we believe that they're timeless.
I like that framing a lot. And it also got me thinking about the way progressive Judaism, that's not actually a movement. We have multiple denominations that fall under this category. So Reform, most conservative, Reconstructionist, Renewal, these are all very different flavors that he would put under his umbrella of progressive Judaism. And what we see if we look at history in the last 50 years, particularly, is that the Reform movement tends to be a leader in recognizing or acknowledging what may be newly recognized moral truths. So we are the first movement that ordained a woman. We were the first movement to ordain gay rabbis, to have responsa, rabbinic literature that kind of addressed certain of these things. That doesn't mean the other groups didn't do it, but there is sometimes like a 10 to 15 year lag, especially with the conservative movement, where they do eventually do what the Reform movement has done, but it takes a little bit more time. And their relationship to halakha is different than ours. And so there's a reason it takes more time. It's not a character flaw that the conservative movement took an extra 10 or so years to ordain a woman. They had a different process because their movement works a different way than the Reform movement. And to get consensus took a different process. So I think it's a reminder to me that we're not always unified as a movement, as a congregation, on what these moral truths are. We don't all open our eyes at the same moment to recognize that truth. And so we will experience tension where some folks are like, hello, red alert, raise the alarm, this tragedy is happening, we must speak out. And others go, well, wait a second. Let's understand it. I understand it this way. And so we can see even in our progressive Reform community, there's not always unity in how we're seeing things at the same time. Sometimes it takes more time, and sometimes the first people actually were overreacting. Not usually, but sometimes. So, it takes time and process to move a big ship. And that's what a lot of these denominations kind of feel like. Anyone want to respond to this particular excerpt before I move us forward on this idea of yeah, please.
Well, I think it's also fluid,
Yes.
depending on, how you're viewing, who you're appearing or what your outlook is.
Sure.
Too. So I don't think it's a black and white for progressives.
It's not.
So
It's not. You're right.
that,
Yeah. Yeah, please, Clark.
Along with Nancy, I think the operative word for me is the last sentence, where it talks about, and the freedom of humans to make sense of
You have another one of those?
the life of the community.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
That because it's Orthodox creed or belief system, where we have the freedom to discover and not to be accepting of authority in any great degree. So,
Well, it's a different relationship with text. It's a different theology. It's a different sense of obligation, obligatedness to each other and to the community. And I think the relationship to freedom varies between the movements. And actually, I think that goes back to our earliest generations. When we think about the redemption of the slaves from Egypt, there are those who tell that story and say they were freed from Egypt. And then there are those who say they were freed from servitude of Pharaoh so they could serve God. Because ultimately, the Israelites aren't free. They go straight from serving Pharaoh to figuring out how to offer sacrifices in the wilderness. They're not free. They have a job. They answer to someone.
and I'm thinking of freedom of thought.
Exactly. And I think we see great variation. By the way, also I think within what he would call traditionalists, there's still variation there.
But
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead.
what I was- So Feldman, toward the end of the last chapter, acknowledges that even traditional strand moves.
Yeah.
And so, to your point about conservative, not so fast, and maybe Orthodox or traditional, even more slowly, part of it, to me, is where the authority resides.
Yeah.
And what are the options?
Yeah.
What are they?
Well, in the Orthodox, at least as Feldman describes it, all the authority derives from the rabbinate, and even the hierarchy of the rabbinate. So I'm only if I am the chief rabbi, do I have I am the supreme voice of, so as opposed to this is.
Of God's will.
Yes.
The end of that sentence is important. The supreme voice of God's will. Yeah.
This is, if you will, more democratic, or there's more tolerance, or even, I would say even more than invitation or acceptance, that everyone's voice has meaning.
You think that's true in math class? That everybody's view of how many degrees there are in a right triangle? Or is there a right answer? In other words, there are paradigms of truth that suggest, when I went to my math teacher and said, 5 plus 5 is 12, that's how I feel. And she, Gesundheit, I mean, that just happens to be the wrong answer. And you just wonder, I think, let me just suggest a difference between traditional societies and modern societies. Traditional societies focus on obligations. Modern societies focus on freedom. An obligation-centered focus is a center on community and in some ways other-directedness. I have some obligation to you. Modern societies focus on individuals. And individuals have rights. We are much more a rights culture, liberal culture, than an obligation culture. Then it's very hard, I think, to move from autonomy, which comes from the Greek that means making your own law, to heteronomy. Laws come from the outside. And I think that creates a dilemma or a challenge to liberal societies in embracing obligations, because if it's just a matter of choice, this is what I feel like, the hobby idea, then what's the half-life of that commitment? Something else will come up and you want to do that. If you feel somehow the source of authority is outside of you, one candidate for that is God, another candidate is community, another candidate is reading the course of history, which is a control on the whims of individuals. So I think the danger for Reform Judaism, for liberal Judaisms, is its excessive focus on the individual. But how do we develop a sense of other-directedness, that I'm going to accept the authority of something else or somebody else?
So this is very interesting, and it reminds me of a book that I read last year called The Obligated Self, which was actually a book about, from the perspective of the writer, about being obligated to her child. So she was like reflecting on early parenthood and being all of a sudden obligated to this like tiny little overlord who was like running her life basically. She didn't say it like that, but when there's a creature that relies entirely on you, they are basically the boss of you in this kind of setting. And so one of the primary teachings that came out of her book, at least for me, was the idea of the difference between a stranger and a neighbor, which I think is the in-between. Mm-hmm. So we have certain commandments in Torah where we're supposed to treat the stranger a certain way, but we also have certain commandments throughout Jewish thought about how we treat our neighbors. Mm-hmm. And our neighbor is someone who is other to us. They are not in our family. They are not in our primary concentric circle of concern, but they are somebody to whom we are obligated, because our safety also impacts and is dependent upon our neighbor's safety. Now, that doesn't have to mean literally the person who lives next door to you or under you or over you or whatever, but the idea that there's something between your family and your community. There's another layer here, which is your neighbors. And so if you can see strangers as neighbors, your sense of obligation to each other and to a community outside of you is maybe tugs at you in a different way. So it's not a replacement for God, but it does, I think, change at least my perspective on what community actually means. Is it the group of people you have a lot in common with, or is it those people plus your neighbors? the people that you live in society with, the people who, not necessarily in your neighborhood physically, but like the people who are our neighbors in life that walk the path with us.
But isn't there a difference in terms of grounding it between I choose to love my neighbor as opposed to you shall love your neighbor as yourself, I am the Lord?
Well, that difference is how we get mitzvah means a good deed, which is what every bar mitzvah kid says
Yeah,
to me.
right.
That's not what a mitzvah
Is that enough?
But then when you say to them, well, it means commandment, they go, what is that?
Now, what does that mean?
Like, that's not a familiar concept.
It means commanded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. But I think it's an interesting question for us as to whether or not a commitment to Tikkun Olam, doing good deeds, helping others, repairing the world, is self-sustaining enough, or does it need a framework to buttress it? And by the way, I think, what Feldman doesn't get is what I might call what a certain sociologist calls the difference between thick cultures and thin cultures. Thick cultures have a variety of things working at the same time. I mean, we here at the temple try to create a thick culture. And when we get together at social events or at rituals, these are ways that the community says, without articulating it directly, these are the kinds of things that make a community. And the community has imperative impact on us. If you want to be a member of a community that's thick, lots of things reinforcing our ties to one another, then Tikkun Olam has the authority of the community behind it. It's not just my commitment. It's a way to move to other directedness. Although, who speaks for the community? Silence. Yeah, but isn't it true that it's not just a matter of what we believe, but the kinds of cultures in which we find ourselves and live? So it's not just a matter of, do you believe in God? I mean, I think one of the problems with this chapter is that Feldman, without saying it directly, assumes that belief in God is crucial for operationalizing Tikkun Olam.
Well, he kind of says that at the end of the chapter when he talks about covenant. Like, you can't project a covenant onto yourself. You have to have a partner in covenant. So if the work of Tikkun Olam is a covenantal activity,
Yes.
then it's rooted in God or some substitute for God.
Like community.
Like community, let's say. But there is some like that. And by the way, I think the idea of covenant, based on my interactions with parents of newborn boys, the concept of covenant does not hold the way that it held in generations past. To say like you're entering your child into the covenant does not land the way that I would expect it to among my peers. Because the concept of covenant does not feel paramount to their Jewish identity. And actually, wait, this
Go
I
ahead,
think
go
is
ahead.
related right here when he
Do it.
says in that same paragraph here, he says, traditionalist Jews think of what they call Yiddishkeit as a comprehensive way of life in the path of God, but progressive Jews think of Judaism as their religion. I think that's true. And I think religion's an easy thing to put down if you're not in it. If you're not a devout, let's say, which doesn't sound like a Jewish word, but if you're not a devout person, it feels easy to put religion down. The thing he misses here is the nuance of what this is. Right? So Jewish religion involves study and it involves community. So to say that it's not a comprehensive way of life might be accurate. So for, let's say, a Reformed Jew who has a secular job, who is not a kippah wearer, who is not leaving work to pray, and is not keeping kosher in their workplace, which I think is most people at our temple. Like that, it may not feel like while they're at work, if they have a job, that they are being Jewish as part of a comprehensive way of life and the path of God. But if asked, hey, are you Jewish? They're not going to say no. And it doesn't just mean that their religious identity is Jewish, because Jewish identity is part of all of these things that we're kind of tangling up in this web. It's not just like, where do you go to church or synagogue? There's so much more to it than that. So I think it's related, that like this, it's kind of a false binary that he draws here, where it's like, is it your comprehensive way of life or is it just your religion?
Although I think that, I mean, what I see behind this phrase, Judaism as a religion, points to a kind of a large issue. There's a famous book by a Princeton theologian, When Judaism Became a Religion. And I think what she means by this, if you'll let me use this language, is that Reform Judaism is much more a Protestant religion, and Orthodox traditional Judaism is much more Catholic.
Yeah.
And religion has to, I mean, what does Protestantism essentially require? A belief in God, that Christ is your Savior, and so on. It's beliefs. And I think that this notion of religion in Protestant terms, I'm not denigrating it, is much less thick than Catholic religions, which are often ethnic and include all kinds of things like culture. And I think that Reform Judaism in its inception was much more a religion in this term, but I think it's become more Catholic. I'm using small p and small c, of course. And I think that we, just to come back to this, are trying to create this thick culture.
We're trying to create Catholicism.
We're trying to to what now?
Catholicism.
We're trying to create that. And you can quote me.
I sure will.
It'll be the last time I'm ever able to step in this door. You know, Rabbi Klein called
You'd be our
Judaism-
first pope.
Oh, it's one of my dreams.
Look at you in the hat.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I know that I just made this a joke, but I think I agree with what you're saying.
Okay,
I
good.
do. I think we are trying to embrace the ethnic piece. That in and of itself is complicated in the Jewish world, but the idea that it's not just spiritual practice.
Yeah.
It's not just commandments. It's not just Torah. There's so many other things that go into Jewish living, and to see it as a way of life.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think that more progressive Jews should see the way that they choose to reflect Judaism in their lives as authentic. There's one thing you take away from this series. It is that I deeply believe in my soul that the Judaism that we are choosing to participate in is an authentic and rich and enriching Judaism.
By what do you mean by that? I mean, what is it that
What
we're
was unclear?
Reform Judaism or our
Reform Judaism, or the way we're building it here in this particular community, or progressive Judaism more broadly. But I think we have this authenticity struggle in the progressive umbrella that he's laying out here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real shame. I think that's a real shame. Because I think what we have is very vibrant and connective and enriching. And it's the same wellspring of resources and connectivity that Jews of all sorts of persuasions have access to. And we're tapping into that same wellspring. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Sort of building on that, my takeaway is when he uses Tikkun Olam, it's not really a three-dimensionally fully fleshed out. It's Tikkun Olam equals social justice.
Right.
But that, it doesn't, sort of channeling Uber, it's not exclusively championing the rights of the downtrodden.
Right.
But it's our interactions one-on-one, it's our ethical behavior in business and everyday life. You can broaden Tikkun Olam to include that as well. It's the B'Tselem Elohim. It's made in the image of God, which somehow he's left out.
I noticed that too.
So my argument with him is it's like you have a one-dimensional, two-dimensional sense of tikkun olam, and say, this is what progressives believe, but it's not the lived experience.
He's certainly not representing Tikkun Olam from the inside.
Right. And I think the use of two-dimensional, I think that's right. It doesn't feel like the vibrant, multi-dimensional experience I've had with Tikkun Olam. And I noticed the B'Tselem Elohim thing. It's funny you say that. We joke that like every rabbi has one sermon. We just say it differently every time. We spoke about this earlier today. Mine is the B'Tselem Elohim sermon, and I was like, well, where's my sermon? My sermon's not here. What's your sermon? Never mind, I'll ask you later.
I was almost going to go there, but
Too deep of a breath. Okay, let's go back. Let's do, when do you want to,
I
few
think
more
we're
minutes?
I think we're doing great.
okay. So flip to page 2. We're going to look at a series of excerpts here. So if you're in the book, it's 54 and 55, but it's going to hop around a little. He says, what unites progressive Jews today is the frank recognition and acknowledgement that to be worth maintaining, Jewish life and thought must cohere with our deepest moral commitments. What God wants, however metaphorically or loosely we understand God, cannot be in contradiction to what is just and right. When we see a new moral truth, we know it must be part of the divine order. Moral truth and divine truth are and must be consonant, perhaps even identical. As a result, progressive Jewish thought lends itself to social justice activism. Progressive Jewish thought offers meaning-making that aspires to enhance spirituality without contradiction and to create inclusive community without necessary conflict. Okay, any reactions?
I resent that he has equated divine order with moral truth. That's extremely reductive. I mean, how about when we worship and we sing together and we create community? I mean, the divine order, if you want to use that language, can embrace a lot of things. It's needlessly, it's almost polemical. I mean, why is he making a statement like that, which is really, I think, unfair? He has it in for Tikkun Olam, doesn't he?
He does. He does not want to repair the world, this guy. He's like, fracture it further,
Yeah.
shut it down.
But I wonder where that I don't know, man. So he's not necessarily a traditionalist in his life. So is it coming from, I don't like this concept, I don't like progressive Judaism, or is it, I'm inside and I'm gonna critique this, and then who's the audience of that, for that critique? Because I think sometimes when you're explaining to a broader world what is, and you get into the I'm Jewish, this is like, it's, you kind of minimize, and is that what he's doing? Or, I don't know.
I don't know. I see that a lot, though. Yeah.
What God wants cannot be in contradiction to what is just and right.
Exactly.
Are there Jews that disagree with that? Any?
I think what he's pointing to is that progressive Jews consider a certain thing to be just and right and motivating in ways that non-progressive Jews may not. Like, here, as an example.
I guess, just sort of putting myself as our Orthodox co-religionists, wouldn't they be in agreement with that statement? What God wants cannot be in contradiction to what is just and right. God of right. God of justice.
I think, though, he's making a distinction here.
Sorry?
Exactly.
How do we know what God wants?
Exactly.
So this is
That is far beyond my understanding.
This is a different relationship, though, with how we understand the purpose of the rabbi, right? So if you look through the generations, I mean, we can tell by even the way they consider the things they wrote themselves. So you think about the early rabbis, you look at the Mishnah and the Talmud, that's called the oral Torah. They call it Torah because it's their understanding of revelation. I mean, I can't imagine, the only book that I could imagine reading would be written by Roger Klein, if we were gonna call it Torah. Think about it, like, that's not my relationship with my own writing and with the writings of my colleagues is not that it is the capital T Torah, the way that the early rabbis were able to kind of swing this. It was still revelation. They were capturing it on the page. They were arguing about it. And they were arguing about it. That's the beauty of it. It's so good. I think that's why we're still here. But they, throughout the generations, what we see is consolidation of power. So you go to one rabbi in your town who is the decider, and you say, I've got a halachic quandary, and they say, this is the ruling. We don't do that. I mean, I don't do that. I don't know if you've ever done that. No one's ever come to me and said, Rabbi, I need a ruling on this thing, because our progressive, it's all related to autonomy and our relationship to freedom and freedom of thought. Like, that's not how we engage with God's will the way that our Orthodox co-religionists may. So the pursuit of what we do here is not primarily focused on this is God's will, so we're doing it. I've never heard a Reformed Jew say that. It's just a different relationship with what's going on. So actually, for us, maybe the thing is, we're not thinking about it that way. So perhaps we actually would believe that, what was the line here? What God wants cannot be in contradiction to what is just and right. I think most Reformed Jews are not sitting around going, what does God think? We're thinking, I understand this with my moral compass to be just and right. That's what I'm fighting for, and I'm doing it through the lens of my Jewish values. And for most Reformed Jews, actually, they're not talking so much about God, let alone trying to understand what God wants, for better or for worse.
Although you might,
Yeah.
Asking the group,
Yeah.
because this is a group that obviously does many good things, I'm assuming. I don't know all of them. I mean, does anybody in this group, and there's no right or wrong answers, are you ever thinking about God when you're about to do some good deed? I mean, I've done, and I'm not, telling about a horse, I mean, I've done some good deeds.
Some great deeds, probably.
I'm not really thinking about what God's thinking or wants or whatever. I mean, I would say never am I thinking that. Now, there's a part of me deep inside that I think is connected to this spiritual God, that if there was somebody that was going to pat me on the back, would be going, nice job, Brian, you did a nice, good thing. So, I mean, you're doing things because you want to do them, right? And it makes you feel good. And you're hopefully helping people improve their lives even a little bit. And you really don't know how much we're affecting anybody, right?
But because we do it, that's why we feel well.
Well, yeah, I mean, believe me, I feel great when I do those things.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the greatest feelings I've had in my
Yeah.
life are when I'm doing those things.
And I've had other times in my life where I thought that perhaps it was a burden. And then
A burden
to
to
find
do.
out, to do whatever the good deed was.
Well, it's difficult,
right?
it's a grind.
For sure, but
Yeah.
then once doing it,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're commanded to do. But I do think about it as being part of God's will. I absolutely do, and I know many other Reformed Jews that also are searching for
People may
God's
think it, but I don't hear people articulating it quite that way.
I do.
Well, I'm so glad. Shout it from the rooftops, lady. I love that.
I do.
Seriously.
I do, but, my son, I remember when he was little, he was like, Mom, the purpose of life is to be happy. Like, it's not. The purpose of life is to do God's will, sweet pea. Maybe you can find some happiness along the way, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to be the spark of the light, of God's light in the world. So, I spent a lot of time contemplating God's will for me. But it's not, I'm not talking to a rabbi about it. I'm just doing that meditation and connecting with my holy of holies.
It's like an internal spiritual practice. Yeah,
because
interesting.
I believe it's inside each and every one of us, and if we can connect on that level, then we have a chance of tikkun olam with our neighbors / strangers.
Can't you get somebody who gives and not believe in God?
Absolutely.
Question God. Since you're not,
For sure.
you're doing things, maybe that would be, people would consider God right. But without that thought, that,
Sure.
I'm
Busted.
And in Judaism, in some ways, the deed stands alone. It really doesn't matter what motivates them. Right?
Yeah.
Action.
For sure.
I was going to say, one of my motivating factors, I'm not sure everybody would admit to it, is I want to please my parents. I want to do the right thing in their eyes.
It's very
That's-
Jewish.
That's a part, that's one of the 10 commandments.
Yeah, that's a top 5, my dad would say. It's a top 5. Top 5.
Motivators.
You don't have to have God.
Top 5 commandments. I want to talk about going to a synagogue. Okay, wait, look at the next one. Look at 57. Look at the next one. And then maybe we'll transition. So he says on page 57, which is on page 2, unlike traditionalists who are not terribly concerned by most of the external critiques of their worldview and community, progressive Jews and their leaders take these challenges seriously. That is true. They want to justify, explain, and understand why it is meaningful to be a Jew. And they want to create and sustain strong ties of connection, notwithstanding the recurring worry that most progressive Jews do not feel fully drawn into the institutional communities to which they may nominally belong. Dun, dun, dun.
Do you have some proof of this?
Yeah. Yes, we do. That's one that we've got data for. So this is the conundrum. When you get to choose how you act as a Jew in the world, when you're not part of a subculture like traditionalists where there are strong pressures and cultural norms that must be fulfilled to be part of the community, when you are not living by the same rule book and you're not dressing the same way and engaging with Torah the same way and following rules the same way, when there's diversity of practice and theology and action, it is more flexible, which is not inherently bad, but does mean that it is easier to feel like you have a stake in something and maybe even feel like you belong to a certain community or institution, but don't really feel compelled to do anything about that. Like you might really care that there are progressive Jewish day schools, but you're not going to send your kids there and you're not going to donate, but it matters to you that they're there. You might really care that there's Reform Temple, but you may not, I mean, obviously you all are not this case, but like you may not pay dues or be members or, commit to serving that community at all. It matters to you that it's there. Or you might talk about wanting Jewish grandkids, but you're maybe not going to be so involved in the upbringing of their kind of Jewish identities. Those are all normal things. I'm saying this, I feel like my eyebrow's giving more judgment than I'm meaning for it to. Don't read my eyebrows. It's got a mind of its own right now. I have no poker face. But I don't mean it to have judgment. But seriously, I think like we engage, we want our institutions largely to continue to flourish and exist and be there for other people and maybe also for ourselves. But it matters to us that they exist. But are we willing to do what it takes to keep them, and are we all in? Now you guys are in a different way than other people. You're here at least around this table, and everyone gets to engage the way that is most meaningful to them. But even that means this whole thing, progressive Jews may not feel as fully drawn into the institutional communities to which we may nominally belong. I think that that's accurate. It's not an easy truth to take in, but many of you have seen the Pew studies and other sources of data that show it's not just Jews. It's religions of all flavors, and I think particularly liberal religions where it feels like it's a thing that you can you want it to still exist, but it's easy to walk away from. Yeah. It's easy to walk out of the building.
I'm going to just for a second go back to Kuno. It is a secular notion to me, absent a framework around it. I think you were posing that question. And I think that's essentially what you said. It's necessary but not sufficient. I'm not satisfied with what Feldman's saying. I'm not arguing the surveys or the reality, but we are not as a congregation, as a movement, indifferent to what anyone thinks is a good deed. We have notions of that. I mean, as a movement, you teach them, we teach them to our children, we enunciate them in prayer, we
stand at protests with signs written on
and
them.
don't do
Yep.
as a congregation.
Yep.
And absent that, we can be the ACLU. The ACLU pursues tikkun olam, you could say, but they're not Judaism. Any brand
No,
of
they're
Judaism.
not, but we do have temple members or temple member adjacent people for whom their work with ACLU is their Jewish life. But it's because of their Jewish framework. It's not that the ACLU is inherently, I agree with you, but there are folks for whom that expression of their Jewish values is the primary Jewish thing they do. Yeah. Should we move to text?
I'm sorry?
Should we move to text?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Tentative, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pencil.
We'll see. Okay, very good. No, I was just thinking about, there really is a fourth branch of Judaism. It's a very minority branch, and that is Reconstructionist Judaism. And it really is a different kind of Judaism. It was founded by Mordechai Kaplan, who Reconstructionist means for him taking the language of Judaism and reconstructing it for a modern era. So in other words, what he's done there is to take the categories of Judaism, not to abandon any of them, but to re-understand what they are. And one of them is this notion of covenant. So classically, covenant is to be understood vertically. Human beings and God, if you get the spatial idea. Kaplan says that really Jews are not going to believe in this that strongly. Having gone to the university, having learned the ologies, psychology, sociology, anthropology, the ology means the logic of being human, the logic of society. So this is all rationalism. And when we leave the university, it's very hard to reestablish or reinvigorate a mystical understanding. So what Kaplan talks about is replacing the vertical covenant with a horizontal covenant. That it's not that we make a covenant with God, except those for whom that is still operative. We make a covenant with one another. And with whom do we make this covenant? With the past, with the present, and with the future. And if we think of ourselves as having three kinds of obligation to our past, I mean, it's not for nothing that we are sitting here tonight. Our ancestors developed patterns of behavior and understanding and forming societies that have helped to bring us to this moment. We have an obligation to them not to let the ball drop. We also have an obligation to the future. We're in covenant with those with whom we don't live. Because do we want to be the last generation of Jews after 3,000, 4,000 years? No, we have an obligation not to be the ones. So that one can use this language without really bringing in God talk. I have a few concerns about that myself, but I think that Kaplan has shown us a way of doing this. So to me, it's misleading, let me put it this way. Please don't quote me. To think of God as an entity. That often holds us up. This God who acts like a human being, only more so. And that's what we call anthropomorphizing, understanding God in human language. I like to think of God as the ideal, that for which we are striving. And the more committed I am to what I take it as my obligations, the more I am approaching God. What am I willing to give up for my values? What am I willing to sacrifice for them? And the more I'm willing to resist impediments, the closer I am to the ideal to which I give lip service. And that to me is approaching godliness. But it's a standard and not an individual who's up there. I think that's very misleading to us. It's Abraham Joshua Heschel who says, I think this is a really rich comment, God is the poetry of religion. It may not be an entity, but it is the emotional power, the draw that poetry gives us, access to different dimensions of life. And to think of God in this way, in a way, liberates us from asking ourselves, what does it mean to follow God's commandments? I think there are other ways of doing it. The horizontal covenant, the intensity with which we maintain our purported commitments. I believe in Tikkun Olam. How do I do it? Do I give a little Karen Ami every Sunday morning? Do I make contributions? Do I put myself out for the betterment of the world? I mean, I think those are the tests. They're much more qualitative than quantitative. What's the quality of my commitment over and against doing it 100%, which we never can do, but we can try to approach it as we are approaching, in my language, serving God.
Musar.
Sorry?
Musar.
I didn't understand what you...
Musar.
Oh, Musar.
Character traits.
Yeah.
When he says yeah 7 times, it means no. Just so you know. I'll just translate that one for you.
Thank you. Don't ever leave me.
Never. I promise.
Striving and continually improving and getting closer.
Yeah.
Isn't Musar a way to?
Well, that's right. Right. But who was the founder of Musar? Salanter. Yeah. In a way, was reductive about it. That ethics is the essence of Judaism, as I understand it.
Well, I think no one thing is meant to be taken in isolation, but there are things that we have affinities for. So if Musar and meditation and spiritual practice is the thing that helps you bring your values to life, it's worth doing.
Yeah.
I think the piece for me that's run through everything I've learned about Judaism since I was a child is that we are a religion that does, not just a religion that thinks. We also think, but we also do. And I think you asked a question that really sparked something for me, which is what are we willing to, how'd you say it, to let go of, give up for our values, sacrifice for our values? That's not a hypothetical question in 2026 in America. That's not hypothetical. What are you willing to give up for your values?
I don't think it ever has been.
I don't think so either, but I think it feels particularly sharp right now.
It becomes
And
momentous in certain occasions.
yeah, momentous is a good word for it. I think there are invitations every day to give up what we believe in and what we value most. The question is, who do we do it for, and when is the moment that we realize it? So if your values tell you to show up for certain people, to love the stranger as yourself, to do the things that we kind of take out of context and tell you are really important things all the time in our sermons, but actually really are very important things to do. There are invitations every day to do those things. And if you don't answer that invitation, if you say no every time, that's your values slipping away. And so I think part of what we have to do is to figure out what does it mean for each one of us. So clearly you've got an amazing spiritual practice, and that seems to be the thing that's like grounding and centering and helps you explore these different elements. That's probably not the case for everybody around the table. There are other ways that people kind of do that same work in a different flavor. So whatever it is that you're doing, we are people who think, but we are also people who do. And the rabbis say the study of Torah leads to them all, meaning all these other things we're supposed to be doing. If all you do is study Torah, you've missed the plot. You're supposed to do. And so, because we're progressive Jews, you get to decide what you're doing. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I think, Judaism should be a call to action, whether it's tikkun olam and it's kind of cast in the light that he's casting it, or if it's something else. We are meant to be doers.
But the reason we study Torah is to guide us
Yeah.
as to those things which merit doing.
Yes.
But doesn't it also create a worldview? I'm trying to make a case here, especially to myself, as to whether or not our culture is much more diverse and rich. So yes, doing is very important, but also to live in community, to sing, to feel connected to the past and to the future. These are all
Those
not
are all things that I think that is active. You don't think that's active?
Some of it is.
You don't think being in community is active?
I think it can be enacted, but I think that the feeling comes first, that I feel some commitment to this community. I want to be here. Now, in a way, it's reciprocal. The doing creates the wanting. But there's also the cultural aspect and not just the ethical aspect. And when we study Torah, we're studying the way of being in the world. What is our world? Where do the values come from? How do we enact them, and so on? So I think it's broader, and I think that he misses this. By the way, I'm just wondering here. The title of this chapter is "The God of Social Justice." So he's connecting some sort of belief in God with social justice, which strikes me an assumption we're not buying. I've tried to kind of deconstruct it and think of it in a different way, but is it fair to label a chapter about social justice the God of social justice?
I think we need to together write a letter to Noah Feldman. I don't know what kind of a Nick he is, but maybe he needs to be.
We need to straighten him out.
Yeah, that's right.
For sure. Yeah.
So it sounds pejorative.
Well,
Yeah.
What's that?
It sounds pejorative.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. By the way, the Amos passage.
It locates God and religion and faith and all of that outside mutable, malleable changes in morality, which are not in our religious tradition. May or may not be. It's outside. But if that's the way things are going now, then our God, the God that we believe in, has to go with that. So it's like we're following some dictate from outside of our community, outside of our heritage. It sounds pejorative to me. The more we talk about this, the more pejorative it sounds.
What in exactly is the pejorative?
That it's changing morality changes all the time. I mean, we're part of modernity, so, things that people believed 150 years ago, we no longer believe, but slavery's okay. Yet there were Jews who fought for the Confederacy. I'm perplexed by that. But, so we have a whole bunch of things that, more people have more rights now than they used to have. We have a totally different idea of social justice than we had 100 years ago.
Right.
When the progressive movement started, so I'm maybe conflating progressivism in a political and social sense with the progressive view of Judaism, but I think there's a parallel.
Yeah.
Maybe he's saying that we're missing something.
Oh, I think
If
he
our
is.
faith is anchored in social impulses that come from outside Judaism. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at. Does that resonate with anybody?
Stephen, I probably wouldn't use the word pejorative.
Yeah.
I'd probably use the word, at least in this sense, it's very reductive.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and so you had talked about Heschel and use of poetic metaphor, which was lovely. Heschel, for the little I know about him, he did believe in the reality of God.
Absolutely.
He believed in revelation. He was mystical.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we'll ever be able, in this class, to discuss, the God is Dead movement, how it arose. You mentioned university and all the ologies. I appreciate that. But, when I think about life and what I call the miracle of life, in every second, your body is creating 3.8 million new cells
Ah.
every second of the minute.
Mm.
If that doesn't make you sit with a little awe and wonder
Yeah.
and think beyond yourself for a moment,
No.
I don't know what will. And as we discuss further on, I would love to understand better, how God has lost such reverence or awe or wonder within the current generation. I don't know how it happened. I understand how a lot of people after the Holocaust might have wondered why God didn't intervene in history.
Right.
But my basic belief is, God gave us all operating instructions many eons ago, and it's up to us now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm always perplexed when people, and I'm not judging anyone's beliefs, I just don't understand them.
Yeah.
When God is beyond our ability to embrace, and I have no definition of God beyond all my understanding, but the fact that just waking up in the morning and having life course through my veins,
Yeah.
I can't create that.
I think this is related, I think a lot of millennials and others say things like, I'm spiritual but not religious. And that to me is not a rejection of God. That's a lack of shared language.
A lack of.
Shared language. Because I think actually when pressed, a lot of folks will describe to me what I see as theology. But they don't see, that's theology as an entity, as a concept, does not resonate with them, but they are speaking theologically to me. And so I think part of it is like, we can say that this generation doesn't kind of connect to God the same way, or however you said it more nicely than that. But like, I think actually we don't always share language across generations of what that connection looks like or feels like or how we identify it. And so I think actually like the concept of spiritual but not religious can still be very Jewish and can actually still be an expression of theology, but maybe wouldn't self-identify that way.
So when Heschel talks about God as the ineffable,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that I can buy because it's beyond my understanding.
Right.
Beyond any way I can define it or describe it, I have no idea. But I'm alive. That in itself is beyond my comprehension.
Right.
But the thing about a rich tradition, of which we are just one, is it gives language to these impulses so that it's just not a matter of I feel spiritual or I have a deep feeling today, because language helps to anchor feelings in a larger reality. So, Heschel was asked near his death, what is it that amazes you? And his answer was, everything. Everything is amazing. I mean, Clark, in a certain sense, you have illustrated that. And that is, in a way, a God, what's the next word here? Godliness. That's not quite what I meant. But one could, but it's the language of Judaism, or let's face it, the language of Catholicism. I mean, you go to a cathedral, a church, for a worship service there, it may not be our religion, but boy, is it rich. And it sustains people for whom this is a powerful way of living. And what a religion does, it has created and refined a language which has some malleability. I mean, we live in a different age and we use the language differently.
The
Yeah.
power of the church, the grandeur of the church.
Yes.
Before anyone says anything.
Exactly.
Just the power of
Ex-
that edifice.
Exactly.
And the music of that
Oh,
is,
you go hear a Bach Passion in a cathedral. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, the Catholic Church knows about pageantry.
It's good theater.
That's
Yeah.
for sure, to arouse our senses.
Often I'm astonished, amazed by the richness of Jewish culture. And you were talking about
Yeah.
worldview.
Yeah.
And sort of picking up, we can acknowledge the pageantry of our Catholic community members, but we have something else. And so I was just thinking about some basic things like Jews argue. We argue over everything. And culturally, from other folks who are not Jews, that's not part of who they are. And that's just one example of there is something about Jewish culture. There's elements of it that set us apart in some ways. Part of the question is, can we transmit that for future generations after we have jettisoned some of the other pieces of the religion that our Orthodox co-religionists have maintained? So that's sort of does that stuff, is it sustainable, which is sort of going back to the earlier point. But I think we have a lot to offer in terms of our cultural richness. This is the simplistic way of putting it.
Let me give you an example of what Steve is saying from my own experience as leading Torah study. Over the years, people come up to me or days later and they say, we don't want all these questions and all this conversation. We want to hear from you. And I say to them, whose Torah is it? It's not just my Torah.
Right.
It's, for me, the conversation is the goal, and not so much the truths, so to speak, at which we arrive. It's precisely the conversation that brings not only the richness of what it is we're talking about, but an ownership of this material, because each of us is thinking about it and offering our opinion. So when people come to me and say, we just want to hear from you, what I say to them is, thank you so much. I love it, but I'm not going there. Now, Steve has made that point in a certain way. It's not the conclusions, it's the process. Can we engage people in the process of being Jewish?
I have to make this observation, because the conversation around this table is far better than the book. And you turn, I mean, the book throws a million arguments out, and you go, oh yeah, oh I get that, and you're reading it very casually, and you're reading it like you're reading a book. But you've turned this, both of you, into Torah study.
All of us have, right? Don't you think? Yeah.
Yes, I didn't mean, no, I meant all of us. And the statements around and the spirit around this table, the energy that
Yeah.
we have brought to this, is worth this book, even though we could throw the book out.
Sometimes I want to.
So,
Well, it's your argument and your criticism, which, and we could read better books, but we can't have better conversations than the struggle to have these conversations.
when I was a rabbinical student, I served a pulpit in Terre Haute, Indiana 1 year, and I was there every other weekend. And they were lovely. And I had a lot of Indiana State faculty, because it was not a very big Jewish community, but a lot of the Jewish community happened to be faculty at Indiana State. And Torah study was always bigger than Saturday morning minyan, which was immediately after Torah study. People would come and then they would leave. And a few of them said, I come to Torah study religiously. That's like how they would say it.
Yeah.
And it was like a running joke. And I was like, you guys, you're missing the joke. The joke's on you, because the rabbis say that when two people study Torah together, God's presence is right between them.
There you go.
This is the Jewish thing.
There you go.
The studying is where it's at. And it always cracked me up. They thought they were like getting out of something. And I was like, this is all a big trick. It's all a big trick.
I just want to stop.
And by the way, I love you, that, what does it mean to say that when two people study, God is in the mix, God is between you? It's lovely, it's poetic. but
Not only
what
is it
does
God, by the way, it's Shekhinah, which is the root is the same as the word, would you believe, for neighbor. Because it's God's indwelling presence that serves as our neighbor. It's very good, you guys. That's a very good little nugget, don't you think?
Yes, it is.
Like Shekhinah is right here.
But what does it mean to have is it just
Too bad.
another person, another entity?
It's a translator personality.
It's a Buber Idaho moment.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is different than thinking of God as an ideal. That is kind of like God as an entity. That doesn't really match up with the God as the ideal. But I think it's, for me, the like indwelling or kind of like presence of God, that concept, the I, thou, the relational works very well for me theologically.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, that's, I think, one of the reasons that I love doing something like this. Because to me, this feels like very sacred, holy study of, if our souls aren't Torah, what are we doing? Surely our lived experiences may not be capital T Torah, but are still very holy and worth studying. We'll cut you off, do
I
it.
want to rewind what you said just a minute
Okay.
ago, put an emphasis on it. The Indiana State faculty came to services, and then much larger group came to Torah study. And one person said, I come to Torah study religiously.
Yeah.
It's,
No, it's good.
That's
It was good.
the religion. That's where that person
And that
found the
adverb, it means commitment. That's what religiously
Something that they
means.
do.
And it creates community. You
does.
know, that's where, the voices sort of melt and sing.
Our time is up.
It really is.
Not existentially.
Yeah.
Okay, a quick note.
Yeah.
So we meet again next month. In March, we are not meeting. We're scheduled right now for March 25th. We have a conflict on that date, and unfortunately also every other date in March. The temple is bananas in March. So we are going to consolidate what we're doing so that we can keep our momentum. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we decided is that in the February session, we'll do the God whose law evolves and the following chapter, which is, right, Jews without God. Do it all that in February.
Yeah.
I don't remember which day we're meeting, though. Does that feel like it's too much? I don't remember. Hang on. Let me find it. Does anyone remember off the top of your head?
Well, that's page 68 to 115, or to 113. So
It's not a small amount of reading.
no.
What we could do is we could just do the next chapter and then we'll just have a hiatus in March. It looks like we're meeting February 18th.
Okay.
So it's 4 weeks. That seems like a lot. You won't be here. Is that the first night of Ramadan?
Oh, is it?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. We'll confirm with Cindy via email with all of you, but let's at least plan for the God whose law evolves. And then if we're going to also do Jews without God, we'll let you know. But at least do chapter 3.
Just let us
We haven't been. It did occur to me about 15 minutes before 7 o'clock, we should have moved tonight to Zoom when I realized we're all driving in this.
Yeah, there it is, yeah.
For those who are
We'll confer.
score,
Yes.
the March date was the 26th.
Correct.
Right.
And now that's
That's canceled.
Canceled.
That's canceled. Very good. Well, thanks so much for being here.
It was in the
Really,
bulletin.
Very animated.
But we'll resend. Thanks all. Yeah, thanks for trekking out in the snow. Get home safely, please.
Drive
That's
here.
good. That's good. This is good.
You and I, great.
I'm at the best.
We didn't get to text.
We didn't, and we had more text actually that we did. It's fine. You'll get to take it with you. Steve, you've studied with me before. You know it's always an ambitious handout, always.
Yeah,
I like to
that-
leave you with more to study at home
There you go.
for your Shabbat lunch.
You know that Amos passage, roll down like waters, is the motto on Rabbi Lilybell's gravestone, tombstone. Did you know that?
Good one. It's a good one.
Yep.
How bad does it look out
Yeah.
there? I'm seeing, aren't you glad you came?
Okay, so,
Would have been so sad. It would have been so sad. We almost went to the band concert.
Ellie, is this your only copy of these things?
No, you can keep these.
Both
if
of
you
them?
want. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
very good.
Enjoy. All right, everybody. Thank you. I want to time it so I get home after my kids are already asleep. So let's see what's happening over
Yeah,
there.
there's something to that, yeah.
That's the devoted mother.
Listen, they get plenty of my attention and love.
I'm sure they do.
I even zipped home today so I could see him before I
Did
saw
you?
him. I
Did you?
did. I fed
That's
him
the
dinner.
thing about, I remember those days with
Yeah.
little kids. It's a challenge.
It is, but we live 7 minutes away. I can't complain. Like, it's easy to zip back and forth, and
That's great.
I got to make him dinner. Yeah, it was
I
worth
was
it.
always very conflicted about it, really.
Yeah.
Working at the temple and my kids and leaving my wife.
Yeah.
And so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a wife to leave him with, unfortunately, so
Boo-hoo for you.
it's really a bummer. I'd love a, I don't know, live-in nanny, maybe, third parent, I don't know.
Twice in 1 week.
Twice in
Something.
1 week is something.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss on Saturday
Yeah.
though. Is that
Well, we're gonna carry on
compensatory?
without you, although it'll be a struggle.
What are you reading by Michael
Yeah.
Marmor and
You
David
driving
Ellis?
to
My
Chicago?
favorite guy.
Driving to Chicago.
I actually don't have this book.
What do you do when you're driving by yourself?
Yes.
So do you listen to music? Do you,
NPR mostly.
you do NPR?
Yeah.
Are you a classical music guy?
I'm gonna count the women. 1, 2, 3.
Sadly, in your perspective,
Four.
no.
Don't hurt me if
I know. I don't want to hurt you
You
too
don't,
much.
you don't, it
Well,
don't groove on it
we
at all?
have 7 out of the
I'm
first
surprised
20.
actually.
It's not that great. Oh, look, but
You've been
Mara
listening
Benjamin,
to
that's
it
the one I
all.
referenced, The Obligated Self.
I
And
like
his Henry
Mozart.
Judaism's a great book.
Yeah,
He's fun.
yeah. To me, Mozart is an opera composer. The operas are extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You know, I saw the whole Ring cycle this summer.
Wagner. Yes. Yes.
Brattleboro, Vermont was the only place it was played,
Okay.
and we were there.
And did you feel like all of the pieces sort of complemented each other? That wasn't too repetitive and.
Well, what Wagner achieved, actually, is the leitmotif system, where there are different motifs for different people, things, and so on. But Wagner thought of himself as the true descendant of Beethoven. What Beethoven really did was he took these mottos and he worked them and he transformed them. And that's what Wagner does. He doesn't just restate the leitmotif, he transforms it so that it's constantly interesting. Not every second of the 16 hours is enthralling, but enough of it is. Oh my gosh.
I've never really accessed Wagner. Not that I don't like it or I do like it, it's just not been something I've been exposed to.
Is it something that interests you to be exposed to?
I don't think so.
Okay, okay. You're just missing one of the great things about life. But go ahead, that's all right. Live your superficial life.
You made a comment which was today, and I'm not quite sure I was reading it right or listening to it right, but it seemed to imply that you need to be drawn to something, participate in it, and then get the value out of it. In terms of congregational life and that sort of thing.
Well, I would say it's circular. I mean, your interest leads to the activity, but the activity leads to heightened interest. Not every time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of a congregation, I sort of feel like there's people I like to be with, and I'm always interested in getting to know new people. So almost whatever it is, if it kind of, I don't know, if there's a program that the men's club is doing or something, and it's sort of, yeah, I could go to that. Why don't I just go to that? Because I'll meet interesting people and I'll see people that I know.
Yeah. Do you do that?
Occasionally. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Well, you're so integral to our study groups here. No, you really are. You really are. No. I sweat every time you raise your hand. Hardly. I mean, you're challenging, that I'm not denying. But,
Judaism is an evolution in the same way that Christianity is an evolution. You brought up our fact that Catholicism versus Protestantism, and I guess to an element, but I still think that the peoplehood of our tribal aspect is still different than Catholicism, even if Catholicism is sort of strongly ethnic. When you, my sense is, if you go to any Christian denomination, there's something about you believe in Christ. Maybe the Unitarians are the exception, but there's sort of a core belief that in order to call yourself a Christian, you really have to be kind of a follower of Christ, which sort of you accept the divinity of Christ.
ahead. Yeah, but your lights are still, the ceiling lights are all still on. The round ones,